All right. Call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Acting Secretary.
Davis.
Here.
Stevie. Here. Laraway.
Here.
Torgerson.
Here.
Members Cooney, Keel, and Shannon have requested to be excused. You have 4 of 7 and a quorum present, sir.
You. Agendas before us. Additions or corrections? All right. Seeing none, we'll accept it with unanimous consent without objection. Consent agenda. Anything to take out to look at? Ask questions about. If not, Chair will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda. Made by Laraway to accept the consent agenda, seconded by Davis. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries. Works and presentations. It's about time that we go over. I assume that you new members, you got one of these procedures.
Big binder,
Council,
they were in a,
big, they're in a packet or in there.
yeah.
Okay. Anyway, look it over and stuff like that. I have been remiss in some of this, but pay attention to especially, what section is it? Council rules. We're entering this period where we're going to have a lot of vendors contacting us and things, and want to remind everybody that the only 2 people who can speak on behalf of the village are going to be the village manager and myself. So if you have a great idea about something, that's great. Tell either one of us. We'll contact the vendors. You don't want to get tripped up on, and there's a lot of little things like that. Plus, there are things that we want to change, want to look at, and update. So if you get a chance to look that over before the next meeting, we'll try to update and look at some of those things. I don't have anything else. Mr. Manager.
Good evening. You have a rather lengthy report in your packet tonight. Let's walk you right through some of it. The Sheriff's Department has begun its patrols out in the village. I think we've had 5 to date, 4 or 5 at this point in time. All times a day. A couple weeks ago, Sergeant Swanson stopped in and asked if we had a list of seasonal homes, vacant homes. We don't. So we've reached out to the Sheriff's Department to see if we could maybe tweak our website form a little bit to accomplish that. So right on our website, we have, on the left-hand side, we have this wellness check form that we started during COVID. And it wouldn't take probably 5 minutes of my time just to go in and amend that, change it up a little bit. So you could still do that if you wanted to do that, or if you just want to say, hey, we're going to be out of town for these 2 weeks, can you have someone keep an eye on our property, go by, every other day, something like that.
Does that go directly to them, or is
This
this
goes directly to me,
to you?
my email, yeah.
To your email,
yeah.
so it's protected.
Correct, yep.
Perfect thing for a robbery.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say, yeah, we didn't want to publicize. when
No,
we
no,
go
and
out.
come in, I'd give it to the sheriff, so they go out when they're here.
Yeah,
We have opened the bidding, or we published the bid for El Camino Grande. The bid packet is in your council packet here. We're accepting bids until March 4th, 4 p.m. You should have all received it via email, a legal opinion regarding DeQuesta Road and highway by user. It is marked privileged and confidential. To go into closed session to review something, you have to have 5 votes to do so. You only have 4 tonight, so you can't do that.
Although you can read it.
You can read it.
And talk to each other about it.
Yep. I've begun the work on collecting information to challenge our 2020 census results. called a count question resolution. We have until June 30th of next year to submit materials to them. This is the first step you have to go through before you would be eligible to do an official recount if that's where the village ultimately wants to go. But for us, because Act 51 has a multiplier at 2,000 people of 10%. Over the last decade, if we had had over 2,000 people, because that's the multiplier, we would have had an extra $219,000 in street fund. Looking ahead to the next 10 years, realistically, you're looking at 350 to 400,000 is what that make or break number is for us. So this is real money on our end. Code enforcement data is attached, permit data is on there. The Plan Commission has wrapped up its review on the proposed changes to the residential section of the zoning code. They revisited a discussion that we had earlier in actually at the end of last year probably, about single wide mobile homes. And rather than potentially allowing new single wides on any lot in the LR2 district, we're looking at creating kind of a carve out for existing single wide in that district that they could replace an existing with another single wide. And the discussion that we had really centered on the market factors around that decision, where if the property has been set up for a single wide mobile home, it's got a well, usually if it's not on the county system, a septic field, pad, all these things are laid out and spaced accordingly for a single wide. There is an abundance of vacant, undeveloped greenbelt property over there. It doesn't make any financial sense whatsoever to do anything on a lot that used to have a single wide when you could just go to a green site and build from scratch and not have to worry about relocating a field or any of that stuff. Potentially your only cost saving would be reusing the well, but you're gonna have to move a septic, you're gonna have to probably put a bigger pad. So that's something that we're gonna work at as we move forward on the zoning update.
So you're talking about just for existing.
Just for existing, yeah.
So if it's not existing,
You don't get to put a single wide there.
Okay, but that's not the way I read it. The way I read it, it looked like even I could put a single wide out, because I used to have one on that lot.
No. No, it's anyone that's got an existing single wide could replace that with a new one. Anyone that's been gone is gone.
That I would prefer
Yeah.
it to be,
Yeah.
but that's not the way I read it.
No.
I'll reread it.
How many lots were over there that had a single wide on?
They don't anymore.
Correct. And where would that fall?
I would say
If it, like I say, if it's already
15-ish.
set up for it.
about 15 is my guess that they're taken out.
That would be like me.
Yeah, you had one next to you, took it out.
So then you've got to determine where that falls.
Well, I mean, my opinion on it is if you already took it out, you shouldn't get to put one back in.
But if you already got the system, and like you said, all the systems are there designed for that. We got a gray area. is what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
I'm looking at
So-
a lot of it as blight prevention, because we haven't allowed single wides in the village since 2008. So your newest single wide is at least 14 years old at this point in time. And you get to a point where these are 30 years old. And if you can't let them replace that, there's no incentive for a lot of people to maintain it. They'll sell it off to someone, it'll turn into a rental and it will depreciate and so on and so forth. Well, this would be a way to get in front of that problem is what we're looking at.
So anything, what it should read is it can replace something that is existing at this.
Yeah, this time, yep.
This time forward.
Yep.
And anything that's been removed
Yeah.
prior to this.
Yep.
It's
Yeah,
It's gone.
I think that's the intent.
Yeah, that's the
isn't it?
intent.
So we
Yeah.
can probably state that more clearly.
Yeah, we need to word that so that it's clear.
Mhm.
Is anybody like in my position, I could throw a single wide on there and I'd have a rental place.
Sure.
And that's what we don't want.
Exactly.
Well, we've got several members that have signed up for training through the Michigan Association of Planners, including the entire planning commission, which will be using the meeting next month, meeting an hour early and going through a session on risk management or managing risk. So looking at conflicts of interest, Identifying ex parte conversations, those type of things. One of the things I also included in there for your review, it's part of a bigger project that I'm working on a little bit. And I wanted to highlight the impact that we've done with the unbuildable lots. So as of, right now, we've had 20 parcels that have come in and been permitted for a new home that wouldn't have been permitted otherwise. 14 of those are completed. 6 are in progress. So the average taxable value for those that are developed, that have already completed the build out, is $124,500 roughly, $250,000 home. Our annual tax bill that we get is $160 roughly. But the average annual tax bill paid to other entities is about $3,000 per parcel. So, for us this year alone, we're going to see $2,300 of taxable income from this project. But the other taxing entities that draw from the village, the county, the schools, those kind of things, are going to pack a total of $50,300. So it's certainly something that I think has been beneficial. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And then the last thing I think I got in here that I want you guys to kind of look at and think through a little bit, working on a kind of a one-page visual communication plan. So if something were to happen, at the village office or something like this, this tells who's responsible for the communication, what priority it is, and what outlets we're going to use, whether it's social media, website, newsletter, email blast, so on and so forth. So I ask you to kind of look through this. Are there things that we're missing? Are there things you don't think we need to have in there? But we break it down into 6 different categories. So we have facilities, village hall, DPW, airport, village services. Those are the kind of the big ones that we have to deal with, even through the water system, because we have a better notification system than the county usually. Crime and public emergency, categories in there. We have infrastructure and weather. And public concern, so like opening on the village council, monthly council meeting, injury or crime on village property. And then one I kind of been working a little bit is community care. So like nonprofit news. So if like the Little League has a sign up, we can promote that on our page. Passing of an individual tied to the village, local business events, recognition of school activities, that kind of stuff. So look it over, let me know any changes, that kind of stuff.
Is that in the packet here?
Yeah, well, I think the last page is the manager's report.
Okay. Any questions for Tim? Anybody?
No, I don't have any.
I'm good.
Okay, do we have an LIPOA report? Probably not.
No,
huh?
sir.
Okay. Public hearing? We have none. Public comment? Okay, no public comments. Existing business, restoration progress, updates.
Got a lot kind of going on to talk about, to kind of get our heads wrapped around. We're still at a phase where I think we've got some big picture planning to do on this project. I've got up on the slide a Gantt chart I've been working on, kind of planning out the different steps of this phase of the project, which is planning, outreach, and the election itself. Easier to read, I think, if you look at it this way. So these are kind of the big picture items in there. In May, we need the council to approve the ballot language, or it's going to be on the ballot. Also in May, I believe it would be wise for the village and the association to adopt a memorandum of understanding that outlines our roles, responsibilities, and kind of the big picture framework for the project. May, our first newsletter will be mailed out. The website will go active. It's got information on it. The brochure would be completed in May. June through August, this is kind of an open-ended thing at this point in time, but coffee hour, Q&A, other events like that, other outreach and engagement that would involve council members, myself, here at the office, other places around the community, getting out and making it known what's going on and talking to people. July, our second newsletter would go out. September, our third newsletter, and then as we zero in on the election, we do another postcard type mailing. The end of September, right around the time absentee ballots become available. We do one more in October. So that's kind of the communication plan. We're working out the social media stuff right now as well. Trying to figure out a good schedule to post on, things we want to highlight. With that said, though, we have some issues that we are navigating. Probably the foremost of the issues is figuring out a park project to do next year. The rules when it comes to submitting for a DNR trust fund grant application, they do it once a year. You have to have your application in by the 1st of April. You have to have your grant, your match for your grant in hand by October 1st. We won't have that because we have an election November 8th. The award in December. So if we miss this year's window, we can apply in next year's window, which means the soonest we could do a grant project would be 2024. I think that would be very detrimental to the chances of the bond passing, saying we need the money now, but you're not going to see any projects for a year and a half. That's a problem.
That's something we have to do in the Q&A. That's got to be a big deal. So if they understand, people understand that it's an arbitrary, it's a time frame that the state is set up.
Yeah. What I would suggest that we think about as a way to counter that, there's either two things we can do. Three, we can do nothing. We'll say, hey, you're not getting anything in 2024. I don't think that would help our case. The other two options would be to go for a big project, and commit big general fund dollars to it. Or go for a smaller project and commit a more measured amount of general fund dollars to get it started. Realistically, if we think through the geography of the project, the trails El Camino and Queensway, primarily that area of the village, I think we need to think of something on this side of the lake to help sell it on this side of the lake. And that to me, I think is the easy one to come out of the gate and do something either here at the office or the DPW property. We have the physical real estate on this side of the lake to do this. Let's figure out something to do here or at DPW. Because otherwise, I really see that's going to be tough for people to swallow is, why are we voting for this now if we're not going to see a project for 2024 on the park side? Yes, we got the lake side to work with as well. But if we're looking to make our best case and put our best foot forward, I think we need to have something tangible each year for people to see. The other issue that we are navigating is the bonding. Having the association own the lake bottom is a blessing and curse. It is a blessing because you only have one property owner that needs to sign off on the project. The problem is, does that make that a legitimate public improvement? Because it's privately owned. The case we've been making with our bond council centers around that really the improvement is to the water quality, dealing with invasive species, fisheries, all those type of things that are of public value and public purpose. So they're looking through it with their attorney. There's some other kind of minor hangups when we get to the bond. So you can't go out and bond until after the election. Well, we're gonna be, November 8th is the election. They'll be certified, hopefully, before Thanksgiving. You're probably not gonna go out and bond in December. You're gonna bond in January at that point in time. You have to have a reasonable assumption that you can spend 5% of the proceeds within the first 6 months of bonding. So we don't have to go right away, but when we do, we got to know that we're going to spend 5% within that window. We also need to have 85% spent or obligated within 3 years of bonding. So those are some windows. I'm pretty comfortable we'll get there, but there are things that we gotta work through and get around in this project. We've been working with Roger Sweats, you know Roger, he's been our bond counsel forever, and Warren Kramer. Warren's been our bond broker, you know, since we went into bonding, you know, he's done all the bond projects with us. But those are kind of the big picture items and where we're at with the project. That spreadsheet, if anyone really wants to see it, it's on my computer and it's way bigger and way longer than just that. This is just this phase. Because we're planning out the phase 1 projects. We're gonna have to start doing some of that planning and legwork this summer.
Yep.
So that's the next levels down on that chart. But we do need to start really thinking about where we're gonna put projects. In what order.
So they consider the lake bottom, because the LFPO owns it, LFPOA owns it as private, even though the LFPOA represents public.
They are a private entity. So
They're a
unless the
private
public,
entity.
unless the public can walk into their parks and use it,
Got it.
they're not gonna qualify that.
Okay, got it. General public.
Yeah, so I
Because I
mean,
mean,
we've made the case, hey, Gilmore Park's on the lake, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, it's a lot going on. The association has reached out to Spicer to get a price on doing the sediment curve.
do the what?
The sediment curve,
Oh,
we looked all around, none of our people do it, Row doesn't do it. We checked with CMU, we checked with DNR. So hopefully they'll have a proposal that we can look at next month, would be my guess.
so where's the LFPOA in this?
We had a liaison meeting last week.
Last week.
Yeah, yeah, they're good. I mean, they're on board. Anyone wants to try this out?
So the thing that we're waiting, we have to wait for whose approval for the dredging?
We have to get a permit from Eagle. And the dredging is going to be
Because we could spend 5% of the money right away.
five or six minor permits, maintenance permits, because those are the bays already been done. And then 2 major permits, the river area and the corner down here. They're all separate projects. Not like one to do it all.
I can see that we could spend the money though.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any hassle in
Yeah.
spending the money.
I don't either.
The hassle is gonna be holding enough back to get the other 2 years worth of stuff done.
I think that's part of the narrative that we have to be talking about. This isn't a one and everything's fixed, you know.
3-phase project.
You know, this is something you need to continually do. You
Mhm.
don't just paint the back on a bridge once, you keep painting it over and over and over, is what you do. So.
Yeah. I like the way that you also in that did the breakdown of taxable values.
Yeah, so that's
They
another
laid
thing I
that
want
on.
to show,
Laid that on my wife, geez, that's doable for everybody.
and that's, you know, as we think about how this is gonna be presented to the community, if you've got 83% of all your parcels in the village that have a taxable value of $75,000 or less. If you go out for 3 mills, you're asking them to pay, you know, $225 a year. Those people. The same amount right now as their association dues before the association raised them this year, you know.
Well, that was part of my thing about the LFPOA. What are they gonna
Yeah.
put into the pot?
That's a great question. Don't know yet.
Okay.
You know, we have 264 parcels that have a TV of over 100,000. And, you know, my thought is most of those are gonna be waterfront. So they should definitely see the value of doing the lake project. So
Mm-hmm. I can't see how Eagle would have a problem with that if we approach it with water quality. But they're a different organization.
they are indeed.
Have they gave a timeline as like when the permit would be issued or denied? Just
No.
whenever.
they are not answering any of the questions that we've sent to them.
Really?
Yep. Reached out. Got nothing back so far. Nothing.
So they're the overriding.
Can't dredge without the permit.
Yeah. They're the big bosses. Any questions for Tim? Thank you for doing that and getting all that, organizing that flow chart going, and I think you're right. I believe that we have to do it in a, we explain it and when we release the information on it as a multi-year project.
What do we do if, everybody votes this in, we're gonna allocate so much money to dredging the lake, and Eagle denies our permit request? Like, is there, probably gotta come up with a backup plan,
Yeah.
maybe?
Well, I think
Because
that the issue on the corner down here hinges on whether or not they let us make the park bigger. I think if that isn't part of the plan, I think we'll get permitted. I'm not worried about that. It's, do we get to do make South Park bigger so we don't pay to dispose it?
Right.
And that was the biggest hang up they had in this whole thing.
If we did the dredging machine, are you talking about, you're talking about the corner though?
Yeah.
But I mean, you could make South Park 2.5 feet higher, first of all, because it gets flooded. In a high, heavy rain year, because it's below the road about 2.5 feet.
Mhm.
You can take boat through there sometimes in the spring.
Yeah, we drew up some different stuff, like filling in where that point goes out, filling that in. I don't know if we have a map of it or something, but we brainstormed some different ideas of it, but until we see what they'll let us do, there's no
Yeah,
point in really
right.
keep going down that road.
But I mean, then they would at least know where the spoils would go. So I imagine that'll be their secondary question as well, If
Yeah,
you're dredging it to get the toxins and stuff out of it, where are you gonna put it?
well, it all tested clean.
Well, that's true,
Yeah,
except when the geese were there.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all the spoils are clean, so
Yeah.
they can't really.
Because I remember that's what they gave them a hassle about last time, when the LFPO did it about 10 years ago, or started that whole thing. They gave them a lot of problems about the spoils. But apparently that's been resolved good.
How do you hold the spoils up? I mean, to me, it's like putting pudding in there and then it's just all gonna shit right back out in the lake. Put a rock berm in there or something to try to hold the spoils there.
Depends on how we take them out, because if we use that, dredge thing,
And that's gonna take quite a bit of time for that. If you put them in the bag, that's gonna take quite a bit of time for them to settle out too. But to me, that is such fine silt that all the rains and all the boat activity, even if it's slow, like a no wake area, it's still gonna wash them banks out really fast, because that's the problem we're running into right now, is that's how we got the problem.
are you talking about putting them in, when filling in the bay?
Well, that's anywhere where it doesn't matter that area or anywhere, it's gonna erode faster if there isn't some type of berm to hold it there. That's my concern, is whether it's a steel berm, which is very expensive, or if we do a rock wall and put everything behind, the boulders. And, some type of berm to hold it there. Otherwise I can see in a matter of a few years, the boarding activity is gonna wash it right out, because it's just so fine. If it had some body to it, some sod or gravel or whatever, I could see it staying there. But it's just so fine because it has silted it, and that's what it is. We have actually taken, when they did the Wayman Mill Pond, George McLean dug around his place and the north side. that was the same thing. It was all silted in. Well, we took a crane and dug it and put it in a pile. I thought it was great stuff for my lawn. When it dried out, it blew away. It was that fine. Well, in this situation, it's gonna stay somewhat wet because it's gonna be attached to the lake. So it's gonna, to me, it's gonna absorb a lot of that water, hold the water, and it's gonna silt back in. So I think we need to
Those
come
are
up with
things,
a definite plan is how are we gonna hold that?
yeah.
There's a lot of sand out there too. It's not all just the black silty
Yeah,
light stuff. I mean, there's, especially on that south end, like up the river at Riviera Park, that's all muck.
yeah.
That wouldn't be worth, anything building the base, but that south portion of the lake, there's quite a bit of sandy, gravelly stuff.
Like I say, that's my concern and the whole project is holding them berms there.
Well, I assume that's what Eagle's gonna look into too.
Yeah.
Their concern is probably.
That when we talked with, the Saginaw Chippewa Indian tribe, that's one of the things that they said, you're definitely gonna have to put up some type of like seawall.
Yep.
To keep this stuff in, if you're gonna do
Right.
the bigger park area type deal for that reason.
Mhm.
Plus, not only that, dealing with Eagle, it's gonna have to be aquatic friendly.
Yeah.
For your frogs and your snakes and everything else, because, you can't just have.
Yeah.
5,000 feet of just steel
Armor.
seawall,
Yeah.
or something like that. You gotta have the areas for them to be able to migrate,
Yep.
So,
Yeah, the bays are probably the thing to do first, yeah. But anyway,
That's to dredge it out, but then where do you put the product from there? Farther back in the bays?
no, I think you just put it right in the parks themselves.
Just try
If it's
to.
that fine, it'll, in the bags, it'll blow, they deteriorate and it'll settle.
Hmm.
Kind of like seaweed. You pull all that heavy duty seaweed out of there and leave it on your beach for 2 days and it shrinks down to about 10% of the size it was.
Oh, sure, it's gonna shrink down.
All right, any other questions? All right, thanks for putting that together.
They're gonna, I thought I saw somewhere in here, they're gonna do illustrations.
It's new business number 2.
Oh.
We haven't heard
okay.
that yet.
All right, so the auditor agreement, any other questions? Okay, let's go on to new business, renewal of the auditor agreement.
I reached out to Rosalind Prestige. They are still desiring to be our auditor for at least 1 more year. I'd like to keep them 1 more year. This is, I don't think, a great time to switch auditors with everything else we're working on right now. The price would be 10.2, which follows their past, cost 85, 89, 93, 95. And then probably go up for bid next year. I included our track record. We were with Paige Olson for 9 years, Yonio for 6, Gabridge for 3. So 6 years is about the life you want to have with an auditor. So.
All right.
Do we need to vote on that to keep them or not?
Yeah,
It's just a 1-year agreement.
1 year. Yeah.
1 year agreement.
Yeah, we did an initial 3 year, and then we renewed it twice. This would be the 3rd time we renewed 1 year.
Well, then I would make a motion that we renew our RPC contract for 1 more year.
Okay. Motion made by Laraway to renew the contract.
I'll second it.
Auditor agreement, seconded by Peavy. Discussion further? Roll call, please.
Davis,
Yes,
Phoebe,
Yes.
Laraway,
Yes.
Torgerson.
Yeah.
Sorry, you have 4 votes in favor, sir.
Pass. All right.
I forgot my job. Sorry.
Come on, you have only 3 hats there. Okay,
You can't retrain you every meeting.
No, I know. My wife's been trying for 13 years, Bob.
all right. MSCA proposal for non-motorized.
This is what we're talking about.
This is the one.
So as we were talking with Stable PR, our consultant that we've had engaged on the messaging and that kind of stuff. They said, we like pictures of what you're doing, what the lake currently looks like, that kind of stuff. Great, I've got probably 100 photos of mucky, ugly lake bottom that I sent them through their Dropbox. I said, but gosh, we don't have anything that can visualize what the trail and part of this project is going to look like. So I reached out to Tiffany and asked what would it cost to get 4 kind of conceptual renderings produced that we could share with Sable so they could put it in the materials that they developed for us. She sent back a proposal for $2,564 to do 4. Not to exceed 2564. So.
For examples.
Yeah, so I
Or
put
drawings.
two of the drawings up on the board that I sent her, something like that. So obviously, I think we need one showing, the street section, how we're gonna position it. We need some, nice illustrations of people using the trail, that kind of stuff. Because otherwise, we're kind of not showing anything on that part of the
Yeah, that's
message.
gotta be done, yeah. I think you're correct. So they're gonna do drawings
4. Yep.
and then we'll pick one, or
No, all 4. We're getting all 4.
because some of these aren't realistic,
No, I use those as illustrative examples of
right.
what we're,
what we're looking for.
yeah, that style.
So, are we thinking that we're gonna put it right next to the roadway?
No, it's supposed to be set back from the roadway.
Right. And are we gonna have, I'm just looking at the first one,
Isn't that what?
that 4-foot bicycle lane actually wouldn't be there as a 4-foot bicycle lane, it'd just be and then you'd have this 8-foot or 6-foot sidewalk.
Would the 4-foot be the setback?
Yeah, that's just an example.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, that way the whole thing's tied together, right?
Well, yeah.
But
That's gotta be something that gotta be, that's not what I visualized.
No.
I visualized, if she's gonna do it, I visualized a green space or shoulder of the
Yeah.
road separate, and then a paved area.
Yeah.
4 feet off of that, because we just came back from Gulf Shores, Alabama, and they have a super wide thing. They've got the bike path, and then they've got a shoulder, and it's all paved and all divided by lines. I'm turning right, I'm slowing down, and all of a sudden I see this guy in this recumbent bike go by, and all I saw was his head. It would have been easy to hit him. And that's one of the things we're trying to avoid.
Correct.
We don't want it connected, because it looked like part of the road.
Yeah.
You could easily knock people off.
If there were
I would do
drawings
that.
on the internet
Liability is kind of scary on that.
Yeah.
that match up with how ours is gonna look, I probably would have already borrowed them from somebody.
Yeah. No, I'm not critiquing that. I'm just saying,
Yeah, no, it's supposed to be set back off the road,
well, actually, all we have to do is go down on Blanchard Road between Shepherd
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Wind Road, or
Yeah.
is that road? Anyway,
Yeah, Blanchard and Old Mission.
yeah, and you can see how they did that. And that's what I envisioned,
Yeah,
something
same
similar to that. You've been down there.
Mhm.
Everybody here has probably said, maybe Bob Mott hasn't.
Right.
No reason to go to Shepherd for you.
But is that, are roads wide enough to do that?
We have the right of way is what, 65 feet from the center?
El Camino's an 80.
80, we got 80 feet.
From the
80.
center?
Yep.
No, not from the center, total.
No.
Total.
That's what I
From the
thought,
center,
yeah.
from the
40,
center.
40 on,
No,
40.
40, yeah.
if it's perfectly centered, which it's not.
Right.
The pavement's shifted to the southern half of the right of way, so you got a bunch of real estate on the north side of the street.
Each side.
Actually, the north side would be better to put it on anyway, I think.
Yeah, it's where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's less driveways for sure.
Right.
On the north. side.
Anyway, that's what I was thinking of. So, yeah, as long as we're on that page.
But then we also have a maintenance. If, you know, if there's a green belt in there, then that become a maintenance issue for, you know, mowing and stuff.
Well, I said green, but it could just be gravel.
Well,
I just want it separate.
okay,
We already
What
mowed
about the
shoulders.
winter maintenance?
Huh?
Some people probably want to use it for winter.
Right.
How do they keep that up?
We're gonna have to plow it.
Make it wide enough so you can take the truck down through it, I guess.
How wide is it supposed to be? 8 feet?
8 feet, yeah.
8 feet.
We have deep plows.
Yeah.
One pass.
Or get a gator and go down 2 passes.
Yeah.
We could probably use one of those anyway eventually.
Get a nice heated cab, coffee machine side of it.
And it'll be gone November 15th until what?
Yeah.
I got one in my house. You can follow.
I mean, up in Grand Marais, then I'm sure they would have snow that early. We can test it out.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll get a permit though. That's the problem.
We're not building, we're done.
Okay, so, yeah, I like that, that idea. All right. Is this a
I think that'd
proposal?
be cool, especially if we can, I don't know what their turnaround time is, but you start getting people excited and you can put stuff on, you know,
Mhm.
newsletters, announcements,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. People start seeing what it's gonna look like.
That's why I'm trying to get out of heaven now with our first intended publication coming in May.
Mhm.
You know, I'm pretty confident if we get this done now, we'll have them ready to go for that.
Can you have one of the drawings be like how it would come across the dam?
Could probably do that. I'm like,
Cause I think that'd be like the big centerpiece there, like that'd be sweet. That's what everyone's gonna wanna see.
See the sides connect.
Yeah, just going around Queensway, or El Camino, that,
we don't have agreement on that yet, though.
So, okay,
The association has not agreed to that.
well, there's always an option for us.
we'll get that, we'll put that on the thing for the next liaison before we leak the photos.
Yeah. Anyway,
Mhm.
we can work through that.
Yeah,
well, even if you have a photo to show what it could
look
be, you know, that might help,
Mhm.
you know, versus letting everybody's imagination run wild and everybody's got a different view.
Yeah.
You know, so like I say, the photo might help,
Well, these are gonna be artist renderings
or
too.
drawing.
Yeah, but, yeah, they'll be,
my concern on doing that without the association being on board with it is that causes them to be somewhat non-supportive of that, even though we've got the lake dredging involved. Project.
Yeah,
Okay.
It is a catch-22.
It is.
Cause they, you know, they're gonna think that.
We're just
you're-
doing this to
you're-
get
you're
that.
Taking over.
Yeah,
And it's like, no, we just wanna show you what our idea is.
well, we can work through that, I think.
All right, want the drawing, I'll get the drawing.
Well, that could be one of the 4. We may not use it, may use, I mean, because I don't wanna have to go back and get one.
No.
I think Brent's observation is valid.
Might address some of their concerns, because I remember early on when they talked about it, you know, they were talking about if it was gonna be enclosed or how it would go
Mhm.
across the bridge and whatnot, and if you could show like, I would assume there'd be a pole or something in the ground, so you can take a golf cart across it or a side by side.
That would be a problem if you're going in, you're gonna put a hole in the membrane under the top of the dam.
Well, like on the side, I don't know, you fence it off and then you have one of those removable posts, you know, that you can put in to keep
Well,
people
It's gonna be non-motorized anyway.
Yeah.
What are they gonna take across?
golf carts side by side.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's just talking about people that are gonna break the rules, and all the laws are made for the 10 or 15% of people that break them.
You know,
They're not
the,
made for everybody else.
the catwalk over the spillway is not wide enough to take anything over. You can't get a golf cart across, I don't think. Maybe barely.
Oh, it's just gonna use that part of it?
Yeah.
Or that's already existing?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if it was like gonna keep the same trail across or a
They
wider
have a
one on
post in there
top.
already.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they have bollards.
Yeah.
On the one side. You could get a bike through there, you can walk through there, but you can't drive it through there, but.
Okay,
I think all those are workable though. I think we could.
We are.
You know, because everything's got a little give and take with everything.
Okay,
That's in your purview, isn't it? How much is that? How much does that cost?
2,500.
That's in your purview already, right? Or do we have?
Probably not, because it's not budgeted.
Or not your discretionary fund? What's the matter?
I'm going to Cancun with that.
Yeah, that's already been spent.
Gonna hang out with.
All right. So what's your pleasure, gentlemen?
I'd like to make a motion, we accept MSCA's proposal for renderings of the project.
Motion made by PV to accept the proposal for 4 renderings of the project,
I'll second that.
seconded by Davis.
Do we need to put that dollar amount on, or just the approval?
Their proposal
For their
says,
proposal.
yeah, not to exceed 2564.
Okay. Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Davis,
Yes.
Laraway,
yes,
Peavy,
Yes,
Torgerson.
Yes,
You have 4 votes in the affirmative, sir.
motion carries. Vision mission update.
So this comes out of a discussion that I had last week or so, 2 weeks ago, with our village president and our village treasurer. Updating this to kind of coincide with where we're going with the community bond improvement project here. Not a lot really changes. We had community feedback on the measures, how we measure, our success. Our strategy, partnerships, which is critical for this project to work. We're gonna have all kinds of partnerships. Then, welcoming for new residents. The big change in the middle, it used to say at your service. We would like to change that to live here. Because ultimately, that's what we're trying to do, is create a place where people want to live. Our economic development model is not about attracting business, because we don't have the infrastructure to attract a lot of business. You don't have water, you don't have sewer, you're chopping off a big chunk of who wants to come to your community. The other major dollar store franchise is also coming to Wademan as well, so they've skipped us there. Family Dollar's coming to Wademan.
now is that a new one or is that relocated one?
That's a new one. So they have Dollar General across from IGA. They're gonna build a Family Dollar next to the Shell station, between that and Duke's old restaurant. Is what site plan for the county is.
Okay.
But, we think live here is a better kind of tagline for what we're trying to do and what we want to accomplish than at your service. It's who we are. We do the service. We want you to live here. And we are one of the few places in Isabella County that are still growing population wise. And thinking back to those homes that we talked about on the build a lot, if they have an average of 2.5 people per dwelling, we get more in revenue sharing than we do in property taxes.
That makes sense.
It's about a third difference. And that goes back to the fact that we have a tax cap in our charter.
Yep.
We're capped at 1 mil rolled back to 0.8 right now. Revenue sharing, and this is something that we actually looked at, and it's in the master plan, I want to say too.
Mm-hmm.
We have a whole formula in there that we presented, like, if this development comes in, how are we gonna make it look like this is gonna work or not? And we want to know, what the total life cost of that development is gonna be in terms of roads and infrastructure before we say, yeah, we'll take that street on. That's one of the reasons why we've never taken the Spring Pine streets. They've offered it. I don't want them.
Yep. I'm okay with these. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm good.
You need a proposal or?
If you're good, you say without objection.
Yeah, we accept those changes without objection. All right. Public comment, go ahead.
That live here thing, I think that's pretty cool. I
What's
like
that?
I like the live here thing, like that in the bottom right hand corner.
Mhm.
Looks pretty cool.
I may have stolen it.
Yeah.
Well,
Still good.
our neighbor,
Good is good.
our big neighbor in the county slogan is meet here, which I think is, you know, if that's where they want to go, so be it, but I think live here is far more appropriate for our thought
Our
process.
type of community.
Yeah.
For sure. They got their own problems with Taco Boy.
Cheap. You gotta wonder. All right. Public comments. Seeing none. Any other comments from the council about anything? Seeing none. Don't forget, next month is also Wednesday, the 16th. As a reminder, it won't be on Tuesday, it'll be on March 16th. Okay. Stand adjourned.
Wow.
Yeah.